Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to First Tuesday. I'm Jamie Prenkert. I'm the Dean of the Carlson School of Management, and it's exciting to gather with you today for another First Tuesday, what is sure to be an informative, educational, and inspiring hour. And before I tell you a little more about Christy Sovereign and the 2026 Special Olympics USA Games, on behalf of the Carlson School, I want to thank First Tuesday's partners, premier sponsor Tennant Company, and media sponsor Minnesota Public Radio. Thank you to them. And of course, I want to offer a very special thank you to the many Carlson School of Management and University of Minnesota alumni and supporters who are here with us today. I also want to welcome our University of Minnesota regents, Penny Wheeler and Cody Verhalen. Thank you for being here today. As well as, I believe, our University of Minnesota Vice President of Communications, Chris Gotti, is here, who is a Special Olympics board member. So welcome to him and thank you. I also want to provide a special thank you to our benefactors who are here today, including the Carlson School Investor Circle members. The Investor Circle is the school's annual giving society, which recognizes the school's most ardent and committed individual supporters. Welcome to all of you as well. And finally, I want to offer my most special welcome to the number of Special Olympics athletes who were able to join us today. Let's give them a hearty round of applause. Okay, now I want to give you some information about Christy, today's featured speaker. She is the Chief Executive Officer for the 2026 Special Olympics USA Games. As an executive on loan from Accenture, let's give Accenture a round of applause for doing that. As an executive on loan from Accenture, she brings 35 years of business and leadership experience, coupled with a very personal story, having grown up alongside her sister, Katie, a distinguished Special Olympics athlete and global messenger. Since joining Accenture, Christy has built a reputation as a trusted and strategic client advisor. She's an authentic, growth-oriented leader, deeply experienced in driving transformational change and businesses to higher levels of performance. Not only this, but she is passionate about the Twin Cities community, and she's giving back to that community. She serves on the boards of Greater MSP, the Minnesota Business Partnership, and the Carlson School, for which I am personally grateful for the benefit that I get from your insight and guidance, Christy. Thank you. Throughout her 40-plus years of supporting Special Olympics, Christy has been a coach, a United partner, a board member of Special Olympics Minnesota. So to get us started today, Christy is going to give a short presentation to share more about the Special Olympics mission, the Games, and we'll hear more with a special treat from an athlete, Abby Hirsch, about that experience. Yes. And then Christy and Abby will sit down for a conversation with Chris Farrell, Senior Economics Contributor at Marketplace, America Public Media's nationally syndicated public radio business and economic program. Chris is also a Senior Economics Contributor to Minnesota Public Radio, frequently appearing on NPR as a contributor and as a guest host. He's an author of 5 books on personal finance and the economy, and we're pleased to have Chris with us today as well. Now I want to invite Christy to the stage, and as she comes, please direct your attention to the screens for a short video about the Special Olympics.
Jamie, thank you so much for that lovely introduction. We are so excited to be here with you all this afternoon and talk about what's coming to Minnesota in, I asked Siri this morning, 382 short days from now. As Jamie said, I'm Christy Sovereign, and I have the privilege of CEO responsibility for the 2026 Special Olympics USA Games. I was reflecting this morning, and I feel like I'm having this collide of personal brands here today. I am a proud alum of the Carlson School. As Jamie said, I'm very proudly representing Accenture on loan in this leadership role. And I'm also very proudly representing a Special Olympics community that I know showed up here in force. So it's really a privilege to be able to do something like this that is so deeply personal. My sister Katie, who's with us here today, has been involved in Special Olympics for over 40 years. And and she's done everything. She's done sports, she's done the off the field stuff, global messenger, like we'll hear from one today. Through her, I and my family have been extensively involved. I've been a coach, I've been a volunteer, I've been a super fan. I'm an proud alum of the board of Special Olympics Minnesota. I was a unified partner for about 15 minutes until I was fired because I was told by Katie that I was keeping her from going for the gold, and which is true because my golf game is terrible. But at least that is on my resume. I'm joined by a very special person today, and we're going to talk about a very special event. But if there's nothing else that you take away from today's discussion, I hope it would be an appreciation that we're not here to talk about an event, but to appreciate the event as one that's propelling a movement. We are driving a movement forward that's really, really important. So what is that movement? That movement is one to improve the lives of people with intellectual disability. I don't think it would be a surprise to anyone in this room to appreciate that the world can be a very, very hard place for people with intellectual disability. Bias and discrimination and social injustices and lack of access to basic human rights. But some of the statistics here, I think, at least to me, were quite a surprise. You know, lack of access to health services results in a life expectancy for those with and without intellectual disability that's 16 years different, right? And lack of access to employment opportunities suggests that only 18.5% of people with intellectual disability are employed to the level of their ability. So it's absolutely a crisis of under and unemployment. So we're really, really focused on how does this event, how does this movement address some of these things? And of course, there's no bigger role in addressing these things than Special Olympics plays. Special Olympics is, its brand is that, about improving the lives of people with intellectual disability. It is well known, it is well trusted, it's the 5th most trusted nonprofit. 90% of people know it, 95% of those people view it very, very favorably. We often say, who are the 10% and who are the 5%? But 5% of households have a family member with intellectual disability in the households. But 2 in 5, so 40%, have actually supported in Special Olympics in some capacity. So again, a very well-respected and supported brand. Let me spend a minute talking about kind of the structure of Special Olympics, because it is a very big brand in the market. At the top of this slide, we've endeavored to represent Special Olympics International, which governs day in, day out, year in, year out sports programming, as depicted on the left hand of the slide, all year. On the right hand of the slide, we've depicted what are these major events, right, that pop up in the market that provide those elite athletes within Special Olympics the opportunity to compete, like in World Cups or 5-ring Olympics. On the left, you see the pictures of what attempts to represent all of our state programs, and a shout out to Special Olympics Minnesota here today, which is doing incredible work, again, every day, every week, to deliver training and competition and different services to around the globe over 7 million plus athletes. And again, this event that we're talking about sits on the right hand of the slide. Again, an opportunity for elite athletes to come together and compete and propel what is the left side of the slide forward through the platform we have and the efforts that we can make happen. This slide, which is the board has heard me, shout out to the board here today, board has heard me talk about, we use this, what we endearingly call our super slide, in every internal and external forum. What it attempts to do is depict the scope of the event in the context of the broader Special Olympics mission. So while Special Olympics is so well known for its legacy, for its history in driving inclusion through sport, it's much lesser known for what it's doing off the field, again, to improve lives of people with intellectual disability in the spaces of health and wellness, youth inclusion, and athlete employment. So what's happening on the field that last week in June 2026? We will be hosting over 3,000 athletes from across the US that'll come to compete. Team Minnesota, who we have some Team Minnesota people here today, will represent about 225 of those 3,000 athletes. So go Team Minnesota, the home team. They'll compete in 16 sport competitions in both traditional and unified events. Unified is people with and without intellectual disability competing together. So we'll have both traditional and unified events. It'll take an army of volunteers. We'll talk more about that later. We expect that there's about 100,000 people that'll come from across the US, greater Minnesota, and across from the US to come, which will make the event the single biggest that has taken place in this market since 1991, when interestingly, it was another Special Olympics event, the International Games that took place 35 years ago in 1991. We were to have been the largest sporting event in 2026 in the US until FIFA decided to host the World Cup here. So now we call ourselves a very proud number 2 in that regard. But importantly, what's happening off the field? As I said, we will be working to address these very important Special Olympics priorities off the field as well, both with the platform we have leading up to the games and at the games. So what's happening? In the health and wellness space, we very proudly will be providing free health screenings to all 3,000 plus athletes that are coming in 7 different disciplines. So free vision checks, free hearing checks, free dental checks, mental health checks, et cetera, et cetera. Again, the priority there is to get after that discrepancy in life expectancy that I talked about. In the youth inclusion space, again, big priority here, recognizing that the earliest ages that you can bring youth together make differences go away. Special Olympics enables you to start competing for medals, right, athletes, at age 8. So Special Olympics Young Athletes programming brings athletes ages 2 to 7 or aspiring athletes ages 2 to 7 together for play, more than not. Again, and the trailing impact of bringing kids with and without intellectual disability together is beautiful in terms of how it shows up ultimately in schools with far less bullying and stigma, and ultimately in our communities in terms of more inclusive mindsets and opportunity. So we will be having a young athletes event here on campus. We also came to learn that Mall of America does a Toddler Tuesday, so we will be taking over Toddler Tuesday at the Mall of America that last week in June 2026, and also hosting a young athletes or youth leadership experience during the week of the games. And lastly, in the area of athlete employment, again, Special Olympics does a ton of athlete leadership training. You're going to see the manifestation of that here shortly. What we will be doing is hosting a series of unified work events, again, leading up to culminating in its working title, a Unified Work Summit, the week of the games, to again provide tooling for both athletes and corporate partners to get after this 18.5% statistic. Abby and I had the opportunity to talk about this event at the Capitol a couple of years in a row, did we, Abby? And the reaction that we got from the Capitol is, wow, this isn't just, quote unquote, a sporting event, because it is an amazing sporting event. It really is a humanitarian event, and I've stolen that. It really is a humanitarian event, and one that we're very proud of in terms of the impact that it will ultimately deliver. Some pictures here just to quickly illustrate, like the 5-ring Olympics, big opening and closing ceremonies, big fan zones, big athlete villages. This time next year, we will be running the torch. We will light it, and it'll run for a month leading up to opening ceremonies. We'll light the cauldron and get it started. You see in the bottom left of the slide what will be fan zones, ways for us to engage the community and provide just an uplifted, incredible athlete experience. We'll have a big fan zone here on campus that'll have daily and nightly programming. We'll have a fan zone up at our secondary hub location up at the National Sports Center in Blaine, which we're thrilled about that partnership and the opportunity to have other sports up there. So a secondary fan zone there. And then, of course, the Mall of America representing a third fan zone that'll be fabulous for us to be able to activate there. And frankly, grab people that are at the Mall of America and get them onto campus into the National Sports Center to see events. And of course, it's really, really important to us, as we talked about, that this isn't just a moment in time, but this is an event that propels the movement, and hence the indication of the legacy there on the bottom part of the slide. Now, at this time, it is my pleasure to introduce a very special guest. She is a phenomenal athlete and shows her abilities both on and off the field consistently. Abby is an alum of Team Minnesota. She participated in the 2014 USA Games. Abby's also an athlete leader and global messenger. So without further ado, Abby, please bring this experience to life through us.
My name is Abby Hirsch, and I am an athlete with Special Olympics Minnesota. I also serve on the Special Olympics Minnesota Board of Directors, and I am very active as an athlete leader and messenger. I am so happy to be here today and very excited about the 2026 USA Games, which we will be hosting next year. Special Olympics is a really big part of my life. I participate in many sports all year round, including basketball, bocce ball, bowling, downhill skiing, powerlifting, poly hockey, track, and my favorite, swimming. I have fun training and competing, and I love to get to hang out with my friends. I had the honor of representing Team Minnesota in the 2014 USA Games in New Jersey, and it was a dream come true. I know what it will be like for the 3,000 athletes that will participate in the 2026 USA Games, and their experience will be incredible. I have memories that will last a lifetime, from walking into opening ceremonies and hearing the crowd celebrate me and my Minnesota teammates, competing on a national stage against other elite athletes, hanging out with my friends in the fan zone, and meeting athletes from across the country and trading pins. The USA Games are the best. The 2026 USA Games will put Minnesota on a national stage, and they will shine a light on the abilities of people who have an intellectual disability. This is a special moment in time for our athletes and the whole community to come together, and we have the opportunity to advance the mission of Special Olympics and showcase Minnesota as a unified place where people both work and play together. Our tagline for the Games is "Calling all champions."
Yeah, we're good. And we're going to tease you with that and talk about that in just a minute. Tease. All right. We're really excited to be here on campus, especially to be able to talk about the University of Minnesota partnership. It is significant. Perhaps it's an understatement to call it significant. The University of Minnesota will be the host location for 10 of our 16 sports. The other 6, as I said, will be up in Blaine at the National Sports Center. The University of Minnesota will house the over 3,000 athletes and about 1,500 coaches and trainers and staff that will come support, so about 4,600 beds. I think we've maxed out the space in terms of claiming what we could for the event. It will be the host of our ceremonies and special events, including big opening and closing ceremonies at Huntington Bank Stadium. The fan zone I talked about, that'll be right outside Huntington Bank Stadium with daily and nightly programming. And it'll also be the location for where we'll be doing a lot of the legacy advancing or mission advancing things, including young athletes, including youth leadership, including healthy athlete screening that I talked about, and of course the Unified Work Summit and associated activities. So again, very, very significant partnership that we're very, very appreciative of. We're also hugely appreciative of what is our list of corporate partners. Many of them are in the audience here today. I'd love to stop and give them a huge thanks and round of applause. This list is long and continuously growing. This is as of end of May. I always have to caveat, right, as the list continues to grow. But these partners here are enabling us to do all of the things that I talked about and leave the impact that we most certainly want to leave. So now, without further ado, I will let Abby bring us home.
Our tagline for the Games is "Calling all champions." It perfectly captured what we want to do in 2026, call all to come forward in support of the Special Olympics mission.
This is a call to champions everywhere, from every corner of the country. It's time, once again, to unite at the 2026 Special Olympics USA Games. Athletes, coaches, parents, volunteers, partners, fans, everyone. It's time to unite, to inspire, to uplift, to make history, to set a more inclusive future in motion. Will you answer the call?
Thank you to all of our partners who are supporting this great event. And a special thanks to the University of Minnesota, who I know will be an incredible host for the thousands of athletes, their coaches and families, the volunteers, and the fans that will come from near and far. We can't wait.
Well, that was terrific. Thank you so much. I have lots of questions to ask you, but also you'll see cards on your table. I'd love to bring in your questions, so give your questions. There'll be people back there, and they'll bring them up to me. Christy, I'm going to start off with you. Okay, when you look at those slides, so how do you coordinate? You have athletes, you have families, you have volunteers, you have sponsors, you have government, you have the University of Minnesota. I mean, there's a lot of players that go into the Special Olympics. So what leadership lessons are you learning from coordinating all these different constituencies?
Awesome. Well, thanks, Chris. Let me start by answering your question about all the different moving parts. It is a very intricate symphony of bringing all these different pieces together that I talked about. It is a sporting event. It is a special event with all the different things. It is a carnival and street fair, if you will, and what we're doing at the fan zone. It's legacy advancing in those special events. So really the orchestration to bring all those pieces together, and with a solid foundation of athlete safety and risk mitigation and all that, not just for our athletes, but for all that will come, join and be guests together. Certainly that's where the host of challenges, right, or artfulness comes from. It does take a village. I will talk about our team. Our team is small but mighty, many of them over there. On payroll, we'll have about 30 when all is said and done. We're close to that number now. But we anticipate needing 20,000 volunteerships. We're hoping we have less than 20,000 volunteers. We're hoping there's a multiple sign up for that. But our org chart actually reflects the top 200 of those 20,000 shifts needed to represent what is an army, starting with leadership army of volunteers that will be brought to bear and support. What do those leadership volunteers look like? They look like those that possess the specialty skills that will help us with sport competition and technical delegates for different sports. In the healthy area, those represent all the practitioners that will come in support of the health screenings that I talked about. So our org chart is hundreds of names, you know, starting first with a small and mighty army, but it truly is the epitome of orchestrating all of that, because it will take a village, and I trust that this village, right, will show up in spades to support.
So, you know, looking at this audience, there's a lot of leaders in here, organizations, business leaders, nonprofit leaders, and with this experience, I mean, what are you learning about how do you build an inclusive team? How do you build an inclusive organization?
It's interesting. You know, we spun up our local organizing committee in the summer of 2022, so about 4 years out. So we're 3 years in, right, and 382 days to go. I came from.
Do you have a countdown clock at home?
Yeah, we actually do. Came from a career in consulting where I've spent decades working with very esteemed clients doing really important things, you know, big transformational programs focused on top line or bottom line growth, right, all in an effort to drive shareholder value. And I've reflected a number of times that this is kind of the same thing in terms of really making sure that this event isn't a moment versus propelling a movement. It really is transformational, but instead of shareholder value being the outcome here, it is inclusive mindsets. How do we use this to grow inclusive mindsets, recognizing that more inclusive mindsets in schools and in businesses and in healthcare and frankly in churches and in government and in our communities in total will be all that leaves the world in a better place.
And Abby, I loved your remarks, and I jotted down, your role as a leader, as an athlete leader. So tell us a little bit more about how the Special Olympics has shaped you as a leader.
Special Olympics has athlete leadership programs that provide training and encourage athletes to grow and show their abilities off the field. The training includes public speaking, and it has really helped me develop my skills so that I can be confident in my ability to speak in front of groups such as today. It has also helped me lead conversations, share my views, and bring forward the voice of the athlete in my interactions with others. I have recently used these skills in my role on the Special Olympics Minnesota board and up at the Capitol this winter to speak about the 2026 Games.
Well, thank you. That's very cool. And you're talking about movement, Christy. So what do you hope is the legacy? I mean, we're going to have the event here at the University of Minnesota in the Twin Cities and the surrounding area in Minnesota. I mean, what do you hope will be the legacy of the Special Olympics?
Well, certainly it is a movement rooted in sport that will always be rooted in sport as its principal platform to drive inclusion. So, for starters, we hope that the elite athlete and that type of ability on display drives a lot more athlete participation and unified participation and growth into the sport dimension of the movement. But off the field, importantly, and Special Olympics would cite that they're at a really interesting inflection point in their history where the sport machine is a well-oiled running. But really, the opportunity continues to exist to be able to leave its mark and drive the movement forward off the field. So we really hope that the impact that we can have on health screenings and health and wellness in general is one that leaves its legacy tail. We really hope that the platform that we can bring forward around youth inclusion, youth engagement and education, being really important, drive more champion schools, drive more unified partners in schools into programming, again, has its beautiful tale of getting rid of bullying and discrimination and bias in our communities. And then, of course, we hope that what we can do around tooling corporate partners and tooling athletes to get after this 18.5% ability can grow to a number significantly more, right, through what we can bring forward.
So, as a leader, have there been sort of, and it's one thing, to consult on leadership. It's another thing to actually do leadership. So you had sort of a breakthrough moment or something where you go, I get that now, what it means to be doing a leadership moment.
I see a lot of, if not all of the leadership skills built through a long career to be ones that are directly applicable here. What might be a little different, or what might be on steroids. I mean, certainly leadership is, bringing the right talent onto the field. I'll use the pun. Bringing the right talent onto the field, creating the right environment, right, and providing the right tools and supports to enable them to contribute at their very best. Critically important here. I've got an amazing team, right, that are all coming into their roles, right, hand-selected, possessing the experience and acumen to help us be very, very successful. I will say one of the things that I think is really important, because it is a topic that can come with a lot of different emotion in different pints. We endearingly have a phrase that we call ferocious debate amongst friends, right? It is the notion that everybody comes with important experience. Everybody does have an important perspective. How do we importantly put a topic at the middle of the table and then kick at the sides of it and ferociously debate? And we're not attacking each other, we're attacking the topic, recognizing that the more ideas and perspectives that can come through the discussion will ultimately result in a decision that leaves us in a better place. So I think that ferocious debate, teams over there going, yeah, ferocious debate took a little bit of time to get used to. But yeah, that's
But that's
been
very cool when
particularly
people
important.
can be very passionate and respectfully argue their positions.
Yeah, very much so.
That is. So Abby, you know, I think you've competed in a whole bunch of sporting events at the Special Olympics. And what do you want people here in the audience to understand why the Special Olympics matters to athletes?
Special Olympics matters a lot to all of us athletes. We get to train and compete, and we really like that Special Olympics provides a community for us where we are fully accepted, our abilities are celebrated, and we have fun. Special events like the 2026 Games provide an opportunity for athletes and the whole community to come together. This drives the unified movement forward. We hope that the Games will create inclusive mindsets in more people, which will help all athletes both on and off the field, with our schools and communities being more inclusive.
Thanks. So we put out some people send in questions before the event, so I just want to go to one of those. And this one is, will the 2026 Games be different aside from location? What will be different aside from location with the 2026 Olympics?
So what will be different in Minnesota? We've got, first of all, starting with sports, we've got 2 new sports that are certified and will be offered for medal competition in pickleball and cornhole. Both of those represent what is Special Olympics' interest in continuing to offer new sport programming that can help keep athletes engaged for life. There's often a big trail off in, after they leave high school and maybe in middle age. Doesn't middle age affect all of us relative to our athletic prowess? And so how do we continue to offer sports that'll enable us to engage athletes? So that will be different. Off the field, a number of things different. One of our special events, ESPN hosted, by the way, is the Unified Sports Challenge. And one of the things that we're particularly keen to do is put unified sports at a premier level on center stage. So we're having some interesting conversations about how we can have some unified partnership with Minnesota United. I hope Sherry's okay with me throwing that out, about how we do show what is that premier unified competition at its highest level. So should we all aspire to fill those roles? The 3 fan zones will be new. In previous games, there's only been 1. The fan zone here that'll have daily and nightly programming we're really excited about. We're really, really motivated to make sure that this event isn't seen as one for that community, but seen as one for the entirety of our community. And so there's a lot of focus on how we can fill stadiums. What does it mean? Why do we care about filling stadiums? So filling stadiums, I've been at so many of these events over the years where who's in the stands are family and fans, close friends. Yeah. Filling the stadiums means that we drew in a whole segment of the community. We drew in new audiences that were new to this. And why does that matter? I promise, having been at many of these things, it's life-changing. It's life-changing to be at something like this. And filling stadiums means that access to new audiences we expect will translate into more athletes, more unified partners, more volunteers and coaches, more support for the movement. So a lot of our focus is on really making this something that our community and broader Minnesota can really celebrate, rather than, again, just host a sporting event.
And Abby, this question came for you in the audience. So, is swimming your favorite event?
Yes, it is. Yes, absolutely.
What did you swim, Abby? Tell them what you swam.
Okay, so I do a distance in swimming. So I do the 400 freestyle, and then I do a 200 breaststroke, and then 100 IM. And then I'm also an anchor on a relay, too.
That's great. So volunteer coaches, longtime coaches, people retire. So this question comes from the audience. How do we encourage younger generation to get involved as coaches?
Well, we're really excited about what the unified movement, right, is doing to introduce youth to Special Olympics. Our Unified Champion Schools, and Unified Champion School is an official certification that schools get, which means they've got unified sports programming in the school. They have curriculum or education, right, that is topical to bullying and bias and discrimination, avoidance of it. And they've got opportunities for people who, with intellectual disability or who are different, to be in leadership roles, be it student council or others. So there's an official certification of unified schools. We probably say Minnesota leads the way in the country in terms of the number of schools that are certified. I share all that to come back to, really, I think the growth in new coaches and long-term sits with our younger people, right? Our high school graduates, our college graduates, those that have been or participated themselves in unified sports and been transformed through the experience and can come in and can start giving back in this way that is so important to what we're doing.
So I want to leap to, there's been several questions coming in. We'll go just right to it. You first, Abby, and then Christy, which is how can people get involved? So Abby?
There's a place for everyone at the games. As I shared, we are calling all champions. We will be working to get thousands of volunteers, but whether you decide to volunteer or not, everyone has an opportunity to come forward and be a champion to support the games. Spread the word and bring your family and friends to come take in the fun. You can come cheer for the athletes as well as come and enjoy our special events in the fan zones. Come join us, and I promise you will have a great time.
So Christy, I don't know there's much you can add to that, but if you would like to add to that.
Mic drop every time I follow Abby, yeah.
How people get involved.
How people get involved. So I referenced the 20,000 volunteer roles. We will be opening up volunteer registration to the general public in January. We will start to do, we're already deep into recruitment of some of the different leadership positions. So if you're sitting in the audience or know people that have some of these specialty health or sports skills or other that we're talking about, please find us, www.2026usagames.org. Find us. We're very eager to start to do all of that recruitment as early as possible. There'll be some recruitment from our corporate partners, employee bases that'll start in the fall, and again in January, general volunteer will open to the public.
So you sort of touched on this, but a question from the audience are, what are your top 3 strategies? Maybe it's 2, maybe it's 4, but what are your top 3 strategies to activate and engage the local community that might not be as involved behind the scenes in planning the games themselves?
I probably repeat myself a little bit, as you
That's
said,
okay.
Chris, but 3 strategies. We are calling all champions, as Abby said, so there is quite an expansive marketing campaign, I smile at Jamie, marketing campaign to build drumbeat and awareness and all those important things that can raise awareness and help people know it's coming so that they can get involved. We're very, very motivated to, as I said, make sure that the event is appreciated for the whole of the community and everybody appreciates that there is a place for them, whether they want to volunteer or not. Bring your family, bring your friends, come to the fan zone, come to opening ceremonies, come take it in. I mean, really engaging in any way is advancing the movement. Talk about it. If you're out of town the last week in June 2026, spread the word at least, right? Certainly talking about it is spreading the word and a voice of inclusion. So when we say there's a place for everyone, it is head, heart, and hands, or whatever combination of that is right for you and your family and friends.
And you've used a lot at the beginning, and it's under the word movement. Why do you see this as a movement?
I think I'll answer that question. I had the opportunity to be in DC a few weeks ago and talked to Tim Shriver, the chairman of Special Olympics International. His mother, of course, Eunice Kennedy Shriver, the founder of the movement, founder of Special Olympics. It was really interesting. So the Turin our games, our national games, take place every 4 years, akin to the 5-ring Olympics. Athletes that compete here will have the opportunity to potentially represent Team USA in the 2027 World Games. And Tim had just gotten back from the World Winter Games in Turin that had just taken place. And he shared a story of a volunteer that was helping with the Parade of Athletes. The Parade of Athletes is the movement of all of those thousands of athletes from a staging location into opening ceremonies for the event to take place. And it was a volunteer that had watched, this was world, so it was multiple countries, but watched all of these athletes representing all of their different countries walk by, and later cited, he's like, I just watched the world walk by, and it was beautiful. And Tim shared, he's like, beautiful really isn't a word that typically is used to describe our movement. Inclusion and joy and togetherness and all those other things, but it was beautiful. And went on to describe that this moment in time, if Special Olympics represents a world that is joy and inclusion and acceptance and celebration of ability, who doesn't want to live in the world called Special Olympics? And Tim would say, the world needs us more than ever right now to be able to provide that space and unite in a way that sport and this can. And I thought that was absolutely lovely, and so of course have stolen
Well, it is lovely.
Yeah.
And it's also the power of an idea, because back in the late 1960s, I was a camp counselor at Camp Shriver on Eunice Shriver's estate, which was the beginning of the idea, and the camp led toward this competition at the very end, which really became the Special Olympics. But there were only a few people there. It was very small. And then when you look at the slides and how many people are going to be coming here at the University of Minnesota, it's quite an incredible journey.
Yeah, it most certainly is. I mean, it was started in 1962, so
yeah.
What an incredible story, Chris. That's awesome. Tim would say the first inflection point was in 1968 when it moved out of Eunice's backyard into stadiums, and they had the first USA Games in Chicago at Soldier Field in 1968. And I'm sure there's other pivots certainly in the story, but Tim would say we're at another big inflection now in appreciating the role that Special Olympics can play, again, more than not off the field in improving lives, as I talked about before.
So as anybody who's been involved in big events know, you have to have revenue. You have to have money to support it. So how much money is needed to be raised for this event? What are the underlying finances?
So we are blessed with two presenting partners in Jersey Mike's and United Health Group that came forward early. Literally. Yeah. Those two presenting partners and leaning in the manner they did gave us lunch.
I'm just going to.
Yes.
So one of the questions was, how many Jersey Mike sandwiches will be eaten during the event?
Where's Ashley? Ashley?
That explains that question.
Yes. I didn't hear the answer. I love it. Yeah, a lot is the short answer. Our presenting partners gave us line of sight to a material percentage of what the total amount of revenue we need for the games. With the generosity of what have been all of our partners, we have line of sight to what we need right now to support the event, the sport competition and the event. Really what we're looking to do right now is find that last 10 or 15% that really enables us to elevate the athlete experience, elevate the fan experience. I was going to say, who do we want at opening ceremonies? Abby. be able to provide that elevated both experience and leave the legacy that we want to. So it's really this last mile that'll enable us to make the big difference.
So how did the University of Minnesota get selected? What is this selection process?
So, gosh, it was kind of a no-brainer, honestly. The bid process is a very long, I'm looking at Dave Doran, the prior CEO of Special Olympics Minnesota, who in partnership with Minnesota Sports and Events, I saw Wendy just had to leave, led the bid process that was, of course, successful in leading here. It's a multiple-year bid process, but one of the earliest connections made, importantly, was to the University of Minnesota, recognizing that you need a partner that has the world-class venues and assets like the University of Minnesota does to be able to pull off something like this. So with the representation of what we could do from a venue perspective, from a housing and dining perspective, from a special events perspective, and, kind of was a no-brainer. What's been really, really rewarding, really inspiring, has been the ongoing conversations we've been having with the University of Minnesota about where are there the additional assets? What is the art of the possible in terms of what additionally we can mutually benefit from with us being hosted here? And I'll share an example of, our healthy athlete screening that I was talking about. We'll have 3,000 of these athletes get screenings. In talking to the dean of the medical school, they're like, oh my gosh, here represents a population that we don't typically see. We don't have access to this profile of population. And what an amazing opportunity for us at the university to be able to appreciate how we can study it, how we can engage. And they've actually, I don't know that it's done, but it's close to done, creating a 2-credit class for the medical school that would have them both, have some classroom education around bedside manner and different ways to treat efficacies around intellectual disability, and have them volunteer at the games. And I'm like, I would have never imagined that. And then I'm like, what else do you got? Where else are the other good ideas in terms of, your School of Education has your autism center. How might we bring that into sensory rooms? And oh my gosh, you've got these training facilities, and how can, and. So I could go on, but it's really been, again, really rewarding to see what you can imagine in terms of the power of this institution and the impact that it can have on something like this.
And I think we must have a lot of managers in the audience, because tell us more about the volunteer management structure.
The volunteer management structure, oh my goodness. Like I said, it is an army of volunteers and a village of volunteers. I repeat myself a bit, but the volunteer structure is one that is governed by our local organizing committee, and then we'll select those top 200 volunteers, or those 200 most, and I'm directionally correct but wrong in terms of the 200, right? Those leadership with specialty skills. So we'll put those people in place, who will in turn probably put the next tier of, doesn't require maybe a specific certification or specialty skill, but still might require something special. So we've defined kind of that next tier that in good part those top 200 will help us fill. And then after that, it's no skill required. Bring your heart, bring your hands, and we'll put you to work. That'll make up what's 90% of the volunteer roles.
And you've touched on this, we've touched on this, but I want to ask this question to the audience because I think it's important to emphasize. How do you measure real success for athletes beyond medals and participation?
Do you want to answer that, Abby?
I don't know how to answer that.
I was going to steal all Abby's words of
Fine, I could try.
Fun.
I can try.
Meeting new athletes and people.
Yeah, meeting new athletes and other people, and also like the joy on their face when they go up on there too, because we have from a variety of different athletes that will like be so happy and excited that they actually take on more, and they're like, how can I do this? How can I get involved? How can I do this? And it's like they have so many great things out there for them to get involved in. And the fact that they stand up on there and get their awards, like having volunteers out there, it's like so great to see, because all of us are athletes, are all different, have all different like disabilities, and we don't know how they're going to interact with others. And just to see what they can do and accomplish comes a long way. And I don't know what else I could say about all that, because I just feel like it's great.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
You said a lot. So I'm curious, Christy, with your experience, I mean, has this deepened, enriched your thoughts about grit, performance, leadership?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I would say for 40 years, I'm looking at my sister Kate, for 40 years, I've had a front row seat to see just the incredible grit and determination and of all these athletes. I will say that what you quickly came to appreciate that was a learning. I've been to regional events and international events and USA Games and all these things riding on my sister's coattails, right, through her success. What I'd never seen is, I belovedly call it the engine room, you know, what it entails to have all of this complicated operation come together to make sure that not only the athlete experience and, you know, community and fan experience is amazing, but we're thinking deeply about safety and security, and we're thinking about traffic, and we're thinking about I'm looking at all the operational stuff, right? That the operations center and the bat phone to the hospital and the bat phone to the police department and all of that is this, again, beautiful symphony that needs to come together to orchestrate that. So I've got a deep, deep appreciation that I didn't before for kind of the complexity of it and the artfulness of how we bring all those pieces together, for sure.
For sure, yes. So, and what did your sister compete in?
My sister competed probably akin to Abby's list, just about everything that was offered. Just about everything that was offered. Swimming and golf were her two favorites, and those were the sports where she competed on a national and international level.
So, what's it going to be like to go back to Accenture?
Oh my goodness, yeah. My Accenture friends ask that all the time. How do you top this? It is passion meets purpose, for sure, for me. I guess I will not be leaving the growth of inclusive mindsets on the wayside. I will start with saying that. I will go back to shareholder growth and shareholder value as I return to Accenture. But I'll tell you what, it is a tough bar to follow something that has such visible, intangible impact, right, in what we can do together,
So we're almost out of time. So I want to end on a note about inclusivity and the importance of inclusivity and what you've learned over the years with your involvement.
It is a deep appreciation of everyone has a voice. Everyone has a view. Everyone deserves to be heard. Everyone deserves to be respected and have their dignity. And again, that's in all communities, not just in an ID community, but it is an appreciation for how you bring that all together and appreciate everyone's different perspectives and respect that and make decisions that are the best one, right, that are in the context of all voices that matter.
Well, thank you very much, and Abby, particularly thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I just want to say what a wonderful hour that has been. I think we all learned so much, and I just want to personally say, as a parent of an adult child with an intellectual disability, thank you to you for all that you've done. Thank you to you, Abby, for your example. Thank you to all of the athletes and volunteers. And one of the things we learned is that there will be plenty of opportunity to volunteer. So take that as a very explicit hint. I want to thank all of you for joining us today. With summer arriving, we are going to take a bit of a pause, and we'll gather back together here in October for our next First Tuesday event, which will feature a conversation with Rick Olson, the CEO of Toro. So I hope you will all enjoy the rest of your day, weather notwithstanding, and look forward to a much sunnier summer ahead. Thank you.